Hey, welcome back to We Die Like Men. I'm Mike, and today we're going to discuss dream cars. Everybody's got one. If you're into cars at all, you probably have multiple ones. Your dream car can be anything. It doesn't have to be something super wild and fancy. It doesn't have to be a Ferrari or, whatever like that. It can be whatever you have always wanted, desired. Maybe you have your dream car. That would be cool if you do. Put a comment in if you have it. Let me know what your dream car is. Maybe we can do some videos on those. A lot of car shows around here. I'd like to go and do some, maybe video some of that for you. With friends and family I've got, a lot of them have some pretty cool cars. I've owned a few over the years, but with, kids and all that shit, I've had to sell some off and get rid of stuff and park one of them. It's been parked a long time now. It's really not worth restoring anymore, but drivetrain's all right in it. So for me, I have such a wide range. I love pickup trucks. I love SUVs. I love muscle cars. Hell, I like some old station wagons, some of the old stuff. You get into the 50s, 60s, and see even some of the very early 70s station wagons can be pretty cool. There's some four-door sedan, big boat sedans that I think are cool. I'm not the biggest fan of convertibles. I've owned, trying to think, one, two, three, technically a fourth, convertible, removable top, things like that. I've had some Jeep Wrangler, and I had a Geo Tracker, I had an Isuzu Amigo, and then I had my International Scout, which the top came off, but I didn't dare take it off because I was afraid the body sides would fall off. Yeah, she was pretty rough. And I just didn't use them that way very much. I found that when it's really hot out, to have the top down, the sun was beating on me. I'd rather have the top up and the AC going. With the Jeep, I'd take the rear panel and the side panels out, put my windows down. It was cool. Like nighttime driving in the summer, I'd have the top down. Or early morning, I would have it down. So, but I've just never been a big convertible fan. Like convertible muscle cars, they want to flex, so they have to put more steel in them. They get heavier. Believe it or not, you'd think taking the roof off they wouldn't, but everything for the convertible top adds weight. A lot of them add stiffening bars in the floor and things like that to keep them from twisting. I have a '86 Mustang GT that's, like I said, really not much good anymore. It's a T-top. That car is twisted. If you stand in front of it and look, the driver's side sits higher than the passenger side, and it's not just suspension. The car is twisted. Some of them came with like an X brace underneath of them, from what I remember, that helped stiffen it. Anytime you had to do much work under there, those got taken off and never put back on a lot of times, so you won't see them as much. T-tops are cool. I like them, but they do make the car. Unibody cars, you take a lot of the roof away or take it away completely, you've taken a lot of the strength. Those Mustangs have like subframes. They're still a unibody. My Jeep, it wasn't as big a deal. It's a full frame. The body really is just there to hold you and your stuff. It's not structural. For me, it's late 60s through like mid 80s is really kind of my era of cars that I love. Being born in 76, those cars were around. It was not rare to see my whole life growing up. Early 80s, mid 80s, they were brand new. I remember seeing them at the dealers. I remember when somebody would buy a brand new truck and, it was a square body Chevy or bullnose Ford or whatever you wanted to call the Dodge. When it comes to trucks of that era, I really like the Fords and Chevys. When it comes to the muscle cars, the late 60s, early 70s, I'm a Mopar guy. Cudas, Challengers, Chargers, Roadrunners, Demons, Dusters, that stuff. The GTX. Those are the kind of cars that I love. One reason is I don't see as many. every time I go to a car show, every Saturday, Sunday in the summer up here in Maine, we'll see, there's cruises going on, and you'll just see people driving, and it's almost always a Camaro, a Mustang, or a Chevelle. Malibu Chevelle. That's what, hold on, there. That's what you see. You don't see the Cudas as much. You don't see the Challengers as much. They're around. We have them here. All right, I got to pause this for 1 minute. All right, we're recording again. Sorry about that. Had to go help somebody with something. I just don't see as many of those cars. I don't have anything against the Camaros. They're probably one of my least favorite of that era. I do love the Mustangs of that era, though. I would love like a 69 Mustang Boss, 429. That would be awesome. Chevelles, I have a brother-in-law that has a really nice 72 Chevelle SS, a real SS. It's when he bought it, it had been modified. It's got a 572 big block in it. It's had stuff done. But if memory serves me right, he has the original drivetrain for it, the original hood. It's got a big cowl induction on it now. It's green, white stripes. It's a vinyl roof car. He's not a big fan of vinyl roof, but it was originally a vinyl roof car, he said, so he's trying to keep it that way. But apparently it is a real 72 SS. So he builds hot rods, muscle cars on the side. He's a body man, for a shop, and then he has his own shop where he does a lot of stuff on the side. He's had some gorgeous. He had a 35 Ford Cabriolet, convertible with a rumble seat. Had a twin turbo 350 in it. He's had 29 Ford Model T pickup that was all chopped up and short with a 400 small block in it. He has a 56, I believe it is, Chevy Bel Air that's really nice. I don't know which engine that has in that one. It might have a 350 in it now, but it may not be. It may be, what were they, 263 or 268, whatever, 265. I can't remember the top of my head, the V8 from that. That's a lighter green, if I remember correctly. I've only seen it a few times. He doesn't live right near me. Lives back up where I grew up. He's had a bunch of stuff. Camaros, and I don't know if he's ever really owned a Mustang that I remember. Although my 86 kind of came through him. He got it. It was my dad's. He gave it to my dad. My dad wasn't doing anything with it. I took it. For me, a lot of it's pickup trucks. I really would love to have like about a 1976. That's what I'd like to have. F-250, four-wheel drive, manual transmission. 390 would be good. 302 would be okay. 351 would be fine. I don't have anything against the 351. I don't know if I'd want the 460 big block, fuel mileage. I'm not looking to tow with it, something like that anymore, or really work it. It would be a cruiser. So the 302 would be the best. Even the 300 straight six, great engine. But, I want a V8. I want a little rumble in the exhaust. So that would be, for me, something like that, especially like a short bed step side. I would love that. I've owned some pretty cool stuff over the years. Cool is a relative term. It's what you like. My 72 International Scout, I love that thing. My 86 Mustang GT. There's a lot of people that would like that. There's people that absolutely hate the Fox body Mustangs, and I get it. They're not for everybody. But they were cheap performance. When I was, mid to late 90s, early 2000s, those things were cheap. You could get a lot of power out of them for what they were, without having to do a lot. You could have a car that was fun to drive, accelerated well. You could smoke your tires all day with that thing, and not be into it for much money. Literally, you could buy one of those and do it all up for $5,000 or less back in the early 2000s. You could get a pretty damn nice one. Slap a cheap paint job on it, some minor performance mods and exhaust, rims and tires. Yeah, 5 grand easily. You had a pretty nice one. Now, a kind of crappy one, they want 8 grand for it, and it barely runs. So you're going to be into it now for 15 or 20. Still cheap comparison to a lot of others. They're getting old. They rust. You really got to be careful with them. It's kind of like they'd be third gen Camaros of the early 80s. Was never a huge fan of them. My son wants an IROC, manual IROC. They were all right. In my opinion, the Fox Body Mustang was faster. The 302 outperformed the 305s. And I liked them better, so. I had a 2006 Chevy Trailblazer SS. That is a Chevy Trailblazer SUV, basically with a Corvette drivetrain. All aluminum 6-liter LS2, about 400 horse, about 400 foot-pounds of torque. Mine was the all-wheel drive version, automatic, no overdrive. 410 gears, that did not like highway driving. It did it, but God, you could watch the gas gauge drop. But for an SUV that 5 people could ride in, heated, air-conditioned, power leather seats, and had a drop-down entertainment center for the back, DVD player, Bose sound system. I mean, it had everything. And it had like a 5,400-pound tow capacity. Yeah. Man, that frickin' thing would get up and go. Factory, they were like 5.6, 5.8 seconds, 0 to 60. Not going to be a world beater, but for an SUV that weighed 5,300 pounds, I think they were 5,500 pounds. Yeah, that wasn't bad. Thing was impressive. It was in really nice shape. There was zero rust on it. It ran good. I needed a truck. It still had value. I didn't owe anything. I traded it in on the Dodge Ram I used to have. So that brings me, I'm a Mopar fan. You might be like, but you haven't mentioned Chrysler or Dodge trucks. I like Ram trucks. With exception of some of the new ones, I don't like a lot of the new trucks. If I could find a really good shape late 80s, early 90s, especially a 3/4 ton, and really if I could find one with a 5.9 Cummins diesel and a manual, I'd probably find a way to spend some serious money to buy that thing if it was in good enough shape to be restored easily or within reason. I think for a lot of us older guys, the 60s, 70s, early 80s vehicles bring back the nostalgia of when we were kids. Dad, mom, aunts, uncles, friends, whoever owned them. We saw them driving. We're headed to school, walking to school or whatever, and it wasn't uncommon to see an early 70s Camaro sitting there at the red light, somebody just going to work. They drove it. You figure in the early 80s it was a 10-year-old car. You see a lot of 10-year-old cars these days on the road. It wasn't a big deal. Depending on where you live, they may not have driven it in the winter. Like up here, that car probably didn't get driven a lot in the winter. Hopefully not. I rode around a lot in the mid to late 70s. I think they call it the Malaise era. Big old boat cars. Oldsmobile Delta 88s, Dodge Monacos, your Ford LTDs. Big old boats that floated down the road. They were comfortable. It was like sitting on a sofa in the seat. They were awesome. They were not fast. Most of them had, large V8s in them, but they really weren't designed for speed, good torque in the engine, get you accelerate into traffic well, but smooth. That was their biggest thing. They were smooth, and I would love a cruiser like that now. The old Chevy Caprice and Impalas were I love some of the old. You want to get back into like the 1963 Impalas. Uh, those are cool. Kind of a bubble top on them. The dual antennas off the rear fenders that angled back. The atomic era kind of cars. If you're into those atomic era, 50s, late 40s into the 50s, early 60s cars. There's a really good YouTube channel called Atomic Era Cars. Jesse runs that. He kind of looks a little bit like a young Elvis. Got the sideburns that come down, and that greaser look with leather jacket and blue jeans and a white T-shirt, dark hair. But he does really good work on those. He knows those cars well. He finds them, revives them, and gets them going. Doesn't always do like a full restoration, but he gets them going, gets them driving, and sells them on for the next person to finish that project. And that's the way a lot of the guys do it. Because there's a lot of us that would love to buy these things as our dream cars, but I don't have time to sit there and do all of it. Let them handle certain things. I know it runs, it drives. I can go from there. To me, my dream cars come in like a tier list. There's that. These are ones. These are like the holy grail. Then there's like these are right there, a little bit more attainable. Then there's like solid. I like these. Then down here, the ones I probably can afford, which is like 3 cars, and it's a Yugo and like an '86 Escort. And even that I probably couldn't afford right now. So we have to be realistic. But a 71 or 72 Hemi Cuda Coupe, 426 Hemi, obviously, 4-speed manual. That's kind of my holy grail. Right next to that would be a late 60s Shelby Cobra, 427 Cobra Jet. Obviously, those are, I believe, all manuals. I don't believe they ever came with an automatic. That would be right there. Cars like that, the 69 Mustang Boss 429 with a manual transmission. I do like a manual for things like that. Those would be kind of the holy grail cars for me. If you're if you're younger than I am, your dream cars probably move more into, things like a Nissan Skyline GTR, a Toyota Supra, some of the Civic, what was the CRX maybe, if you're just a bit older than I am, which those were cars that I loved as a kid too. The Mitsubishi 3000 GT. You get into the guys that are big into the Subaru WRXs and the STIs. There's those cars. I had a friend of mine that had a real big thing for the early all-wheel drives, Subarus, and he actually owned an early Audi Quattro. Wasn't in the greatest of shape, but it ran really strong. Engine was good, drivetrain was good. She was really showing her age, interior and body. I don't know if he ever got that finished because we kind of moved away from each other, graduate high school, that stuff. He had graduated ahead of me. Matter of fact, he didn't even go to high school with me, but different school. But it was a buddy of mine, and I hope he got that finished. It was kind of a passion of his, that car. When you start moving up, the cars change as to what the styles change. If you're born more mid 80s on up through, a lot of it's front wheel drive tuner cars, Japanese tuner cars. There are a lot of people that want European cars. I've had to work on some of those. I would be just as happy to probably not own most of them. There are a couple that would be cool. I've had to work on some MGs, Austin Healey's. I say had to. People I know that had them, and I jumped in to help. God love you guys that like the British cars from the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. They're a pile of junk. I'm sorry. Now, I mean, even in the 90s, they just, everything leaked. Things rusted. American cars weren't much better. I'm not saying they were, but, and then, of course, here in the U.S., our problem always was getting parts. I need a part. Well, you can only get that out of England. Well, there's the part was $40. Shipping was 60, and we were going to wait 6 weeks for it to show up. Well, that sucked. Now you will find some of those parts more readily available here because there's a fair amount of those cars around. I've heard some people claim that are into that stuff that there's more of those here than there are in the UK. I don't know if that's true or not. But there's a bigger population here. You know, a lot of those cars were shipped here. And you get one that's from the south, especially the southwest, they're probably in reasonably good shape. Now, like my son, I look, his dream cars, it's weird. Him and his buddies, a lot of them, they're kind of reverting back to what weren't old for me, but are for them. The Fox Body Mustangs, the Gen 3 Camaros, the square body Chevys. The square body Chevy is one of my favorite pickups. I literally remember when they were dirt cheap. I had a friend of mine in high school that bought I want to say it was like it was around an 83 45, 1983, 84, 85. Square body GMC, same truck. There was slight differences back then between the two, but K20, so 3/4 ton, 4-wheel drive. That had I think that was a big block. Was it? It may not have been. That may have been a 350. No, that one was a 350. The big block was another kid. Automatic, probably a 350 turbo trans, 4-wheel drive, decent truck. 8-foot bed. You know, they were trucks back then. They weren't, luxury cars on a 4-wheel drive chassis like they are now. It ran good. It needed a little body work. The interior was, it was all right. The seat had some rips and tears. But he drove it to and from school and work and hunting and whatever. He drove it everywhere. And I think he gave $900 for it. This would have been like 1994-ish. $900 to $1,000 for it. I think it was like an 83, because I remember when he bought it, we were saying, well, it's 11 years old. So, yeah, bought it in 94, it was an 83. Nice truck. It really was. It ran fine. We did brakes on it. It had sat for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. The guy just bought another truck and kept it around in case he needed it for something, I guess, whatever. And then decided to get rid of it. And I don't know, it probably had 120,000 miles on it, but it had been well maintained, and it burned a little oil now and then. Anything above 55, you felt like you were re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. It would shimmy and shake, and that was just tires. It started every day and it ran. So now, we looked just 2-3 years ago, at a square body Chevy. That was an 80. I can't remember. Again, like 85, 86 era. 4-wheel drive, short bed. So the more desirable of them, not a step side. No engine, no transmission. It had been an automatic. It was an automatic on the column. No transfer case for the 4-wheel drive. So you had a lot of money to spend to buy the components that you needed. The front axle, rear axle were there. The drive shafts were in the bed. What was left of the bed? Literally, there was a piece of plywood laying in the bed. And when you lifted that up, you could see the ground everywhere. So it needed a bed. The sides of the bed, the rear fenders on the bed were flopping. One of the fenders on the front, I can't remember if it was drivers or passengers, basically didn't exist. It was there, but you could poke your finger through it. Floorboards in the cab were gone. Frame was okay. There was a couple of spots I was worried about that may need to be done, but the rest of it seemed to be solid. It was right over the rear wheels on the frame that I'm like, we may have to, get another, rear section of the frame. You can buy them and redo that. They wanted $9,000 for it. Now, that's what they were asking. They didn't probably get 9,000. They wanted $9,000 for it. The scary thing is it didn't sit there long. It was a month and a half and it was sold. So he had to have gotten somewheres near that. Let's say he got 7 for it. For a vehicle that probably needed $30,000 worth of work to bring it up to like a really nice looking truck. Now, you could have probably done it for a few thousand if you had some junkyard parts, if you happen to have an engine and transmission transfer case lying around, and you scab some welded material onto the frame to stiffen that up, and you threw a flatbed on it. It made up a cheap flatbed for it. And, okay, but you were going to buy it for 7,000. You were still going to put 4 or 5,000 into it for something that was still pretty crappy. I don't know where the prices come from. And I think this is what drives dream cars out of the realm of possibility for a lot of us. It was the, you know, first gen Camaros, second gen Camaros. Now it's third gen Camaros. Well, now those are getting really valuable. It was the 60s, early 70s Chevy trucks. And then it became the square bodies. Well, they're all gone. Now it's the OBS. Now it's the Cat Eye Chevys, which is 04 to 07, if I remember correctly. And it's not just because the people wanting them are younger and that's their childhood vehicles. It's buy one. Find one that you can even remotely afford. It's funny, though, because I talk to guys and like my brother-in-law and stuff, or I look online, those 40s and 50s vintage early vehicles, the prices on a lot of them are dropping. The people that they were their childhood cars are either passed away now or aren't driving anymore, or just don't have the money, which goes for a lot of us. The younger generation, that they're not as interested in them, and those cars are just slowly sitting around in barns, out behind a shed, whatever, because the people that owned it are dead now, and the family's like, I don't really want to just get rid of it, but nobody wants to buy it. So they're out there if you know how to look. Unfortunately for me, I sit in that, like I said, late 60s to mid 80s range. They're still so popular because of the Gen Xers like me, the people that are 45 to 65, that are like, these are the cars I want. There's not a lot left. The value goes up too much. We can't touch them for a lot of us. I think the biggest takeaway should be that find something you love for a car. I know there's big, Volkswagen guys. They're hardcore. The Subaru guys, they're kind of hardcore. A lot of those Japanese tuner guys, they're the ones that are keeping the car culture going a lot. So for us older guys, we're going, why the hell would you want a friggin', Honda Civic? What the fuck, They were shit boxes when we were kids. They bought them cheap. The soccer mom had one. Or that if she didn't have a minivan, she had that. Well, because those are the cars of their era. There was a lot of people that, the generation before us, when we say, man, I want that, Ford pickup truck, they're like, why? It's a pickup truck. The only people that had that was a farmer and the guy that collected the trash. But to us, they were cool. We kept the car culture going for a while. They're keeping it going. Now you've got the ones that are taking newer vehicles and tuning them. Keep the car culture going. Keep that desire to preserve these cars and to restore them and to modify them. I have no problem with resto mods and customizing. I have a problem when people take a perfectly good old, people that will go out and buy a 69 Camaro, SS, and yank the 396 out and yank all this stuff out and throw an LS2 in there and slam it down on airbags and 24-inch wheels. Okay, you took a car that was worth something. If you wanted to do that, go find a Camaro that had been a damn V6 and do that with it. Because body-wise, it's basically the same car. I don't have a problem with people that are like, hey, I bought a base model Mustang, and It was a 6 cylinder. I put a V8 in it now, and maybe it's a model. I mean, they got a Coyote in there or whatever, and I've upgraded to 4 wheel disc brakes, and I've done all this stuff. Great. The car was going to rot away. Now at least it still exists. I don't like destroying the hard to find valuable classics for that. I have no problem with the rest of it. It's your car. It's your money. You do what you want with it. It's getting harder and harder to do that, or it's going to get harder and harder. It already has some, but if you take cars made today, can you imagine 50 years from now? My 2023 Bronco Sport 50 years from now won't exist. Probably won't have existed for 30 years. You're not going to be able to get the electronics. You're not going to be able to. Maybe somebody somewhere along the way will figure out how to rip all that stuff out 30 years from now and put in something else, and the vehicle still, for drivetrain, and the vehicle will still drive down the road. Whatever. That's if it isn't rotted away. They've gotten better, I think, on the rust some. And there's a lot of the cars from the 80s that, like I joked about the, 86 Mustang, 86 Ford Escort. There's a couple that drive around here that are around that age that we see. Ones that god awful, like almost skin color, brown, beige. That's the color of the old hearing aids, that people would wear. It's one of the ugly colors with like a cream tan interior. But the friggin' thing looks like it's in pretty decent shape. I've driven behind him and it's not burning oil or anything like that, so I don't know what he's done, and it's a guy, my age-ish, 50 or mid-50s that I see driving it, I think. But hey, whatever. It's a classic car, man. Go out and drive it. If that's, maybe there's some sentimental value to it. You've got to pick what you like. But find something. Even if you have to start off with something that, it's not really what I want, get into it. The car culture is great. You get out there, you enjoy it. You meet new people. Going to car shows is fun, but just sitting there next to your car, well, if you get in with the right group and they do their cruises, where you start here and we're going over somewhere else, but we're gonna take the long way and we're gonna stop at this place. We're gonna have lunch over here. We're gonna do this and see some stuff. Maybe they stop by a car museum or whatever. Those are great. That's a lot of fun. A lot of times they're doing it for charity. Charity poker runs and whatever. Maybe you're more into motorcycles. That's cool too. I've done a little bit with motorcycles. They scare the hell out of me now, so I don't really want one. I kind of do, but I kind of don't. So, long story there, I guess. Get out there and find something that you can afford to buy and learn. So many of these young guys, like, I don't know anything about cars. Learn. Buy a hunk of junk that's at least got the potential to be repaired and work on it. There's YouTube videos, there's books, there's all kinds of shit. There's probably some old guy around that used to work on the things when they were new and can give you some pointers. You would be surprised. My 72 Scout, I had an old guy that lived up the road from me, Walter House. He was a machinist. He worked for a big machine shop, but he also had his own at his house. And they would do, like, they did the transmission in my pickup. And when he found out I had that Scout and I was having issues, I mean, literally, he was, maybe a mile from me. And I went up and asked him some questions, and I went home. And about an hour later, if that, here comes Walter driving up my dirt road and up onto my driveway, and he's over there, bent over the hood with me, teaching me, because it was shit he remembered, how to deal with points. My dad knew, but he was working too, and Walter was older than my dad, so he would show me this and show me that, and we pulled stuff apart, and, well, here's part of your problem, kid. Well, all right. Because he wanted the young generation to do it. I enjoy that. The younger guys on stuff. We remember when those were new, we remember some of the issues they had, the good things. We also, some of us remember how to fix the issues they had. So don't be so quick to just pass off on somebody else's dream car because it's not yours. It's not what you want. They're keeping a culture alive, that car culture. I'm happy to see that it's still going pretty well. It's just different. My dream cars, like I said, the muscle cars, the trucks, the SUVs. As far as actual like sports cars goes, I've never been a big Corvette fan. Just don't interest me too much. European. I mean, I'm at that generation where every kid, every boy had the poster on the wall of the Lamborghini Countach and Diablo. Okay. Of the two, I'd probably take the Diablo over the Countach because I've learned enough watching videos of people that own them of they're not the most fun to drive. You can't back them up because you can't see shit. The Diablo probably isn't a lot better. But yeah, I mean, I'd have to have an absolute crap ton of money, not just to buy it, but to maintain it and keep it on the road. That would be the hard part. Ferraris, there's some I like. The Aston Martins, I think, are some gorgeous cars. So yeah, there's a few out there, but they're way down on my list. One, I can't afford them. Two, I don't want to work on them. I don't want to know what it's like trying to do simple maintenance on an 80s vintage Italian supercar. I've watched Top Gear and the Grand Tour. I know the nightmare that some of them went through, and that's just what we saw on screen. Probably doesn't show you the three, expert mechanics that are there doing some of it, or at least over their shoulder telling them how to do it. I don't want to know, and I don't want to buy parts. So, with that said, I just kind of thought, summer is coming, and this is the time we're starting up here in the Northeast, in the northern tier of this great country. We're pulling those cars out of storage. I'm starting to see them on the road now. Well, anyways, let me know in the comments, what's your dream car? What do you have now? Do you have your dream car? Do you own it already? Have you owned it? And I don't care what it is. It could be a brand new, I want a Bugatti Veyron. Great. Cool. I wish you luck. Multi-million-dollar car. I'd like to drive one. I don't want to own it. So, hey, behave. Take it easy. I got a couple more videos to do today. What is today? 14th of May? Yeah, it's supposed to rain most of the day here, so we'll see. Talk to you later. Bye.